Community Television. You're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm the team psychiatrist for the New York Jets, also known as Jaime Hixson. Don't let the Giant scare fool you.
My name is Eric Rosen.
And he's a Jets fan.
Yeah.
Hi, Eric.
That's always the first step in admitting a problem.
Yes, the first step in admitting a problem is
saying that you're a Jet fan.
Saying that you're a Jet fan in this case. But on the bright side, we are very happy that you could join us. And we are taking phone calls tonight. It's 718-727-0143. And as always, you could see reruns of the show from weeks past through Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. And you can also contact us on Instagram and Snapchat. And we have so much business to discuss, specifically what was a very wild and frantic football weekend, a football weekend that took place over the Thanksgiving holiday, and we certainly hope that you had the most awesome Thanksgiving ever, because Eric and I certainly did.
What did you do on Thanksgiving, my man?
Well, I spent it with my fiance, her daughter, and her mother at her mother's house. Listened to the football games on the radio, and by the time we got back to my fiance's place, I was able to check out the Ravens and the Steelers. Well, correction, the Colts and the Steelers, that disastrous Thanksgiving evening game on the TV.
Oh, what I did that morning was me and my mom were in the kitchen cooking some good eats for our family of 20 that came over. And we were watching the parade, which is always a tradition. We always cook together and watch the parade. And then we watched the first game that came up, of course, which was Vikings-Lions, and that resulted in a big 16-13 victory for the Lions due to one Darius big play Slay with the game-ending interception that led to the game-winning field goal by Matt Prater. And they've now won, I believe, 6 games in a row because of all this.
Who saw the Lions take over the NFC North lead? This team has played some of their best football in, I would say, the last 25 years when you think about it, going back to the Barry Sanders years.
The fact that they've won 6 out of 7. They've trailed in the fourth quarter in almost every game this year. That's the insane part about this. And 4 of their big victories have come on the leg of Matt Prater, the former big leg for the Denver Broncos. So really, he found a second home.
Yeah.
After the whole Michigaza that took place in Denver years ago, now he has a place that appreciates his talent and what he's doing.
And it also helps that he's kicking indoors as well. So not only has Matt Prater been the clutch kicker for them, Matthew Stafford has been a clutch quarterback for the Lions. He's played some of his best football in his career. And to think, all of this with basically a completely different offensive unit. I mean, he's got a hodgepodge of a running backs. Yeah, Eric Ebron at running back.
At tight end.
A hodgepodge of receivers now that Calvin Johnson is retired.
You got Anquan Bolden. This is a guy who's been in the league for so many years.
Yeah, Anquan Bolden is a guy that's paid a lot of dues in the NFL, yet he's had a really serviceable career.
Golden Tate you have there, who's really, after you left Seattle, he's becoming the number 1 receiver. And I believe they have Marvin Jones, too.
Yeah.
So they really have a dynamic set of receivers this year. And it's not just, Johnson anymore. Calvin Johnson, for all the good that he did for the organization, believe me, he did plenty of good. This year, this is a more complete team. It's not just one man they have to rely on. They have a really good array of receivers and running backs that they're relying on this year. And the defense is slowly but surely getting better as the weeks gone on. And by the way, all 11 games they played have been decided by 7 points or fewer. It's an NFL record. Who would have thought that?
This just goes to show you that they have really rallied together to be a good team when situations are tight. Speaking of tight situations, what about that Cowboy-Redskins game?
The main course.
And once again, Dak Prescott, a rookie who was basically overlooked in the first couple of rounds of this past spring's draft is proving a lot of the other 31 teams wrong. He had
Fourth rounder.
Fourth-round draft pick, and he's proved all the other 31 teams wrong. And Ezekiel Elliott, who continues to be a battering ram coming out of the backfield. Right now, I think it's safe to say that the Cowboys are the best team in the NFL. Not only that, but
best record in the NFL.
They have the best record in the NFL because they have the best team in the NFL, because they have the best quarterback running back duo, in spite of the fact that they're rookies in the NFL. And they also have probably the best wide receiver in the NFL, Des Bryant.
And it's not just him.
And the best tight end in the NFL, Jason Witten.
Cole Beasley, too. You have
Cole Beasley as
Terrence
well.
Williams.
Mm-hmm.
They really have a great and the all-line. That offensive line is
The offensive line has gotten so much better in the last 2 years or so. As much as we like to see things go back to the glory days in Dallas, exactly what's going to happen when things get really, really tight, specifically playoff time. January is where legends are made. And any Cowboy fan knows that a lot of the legends were made by guys like Don Meredith, Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman, Tony Dorsett, of course, Bullet Bob Hayes, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, the Doomsday defense of yesteryear,
Goose.
featuring Too Tall Jones and Hollywood Henderson. For a time, they had Ken Norton Jr., Morris Claiborne in the secondary.
You know, Ken Norton actually is the defensive coordinator with the Raiders.
Yeah. Ken Norton has carved out a really good career as a defensive assistant, and he's bounced around quite a bit, and now he's found himself a home back in Northern California, where he starred with the 49ers for many years, and now he's leading a Raiders team that has completely taken people by surprise. Getting back to the Cowboys for just a moment, they had their hated rivals, the Redskins, this past Thanksgiving, and once again, Dak Prescott made the plays when he was supposed to. He's a rookie, a fourth-round pick, who, if he were on somebody else's team, he would probably be holding the clipboard right now. But because Tony Romo has been hurt, he's been getting all of the snaps from center, and he has been lights out.
You know, he broke Don Meredith's rookie record of 5 rushing touchdowns already. That was 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, he's a great dual threat. That's what... He's young, he's energetic, he's a dual-threat quarterback, and then you have Ezekiel Elliott, a fourth-rounder. Mm-hmm. Not even a fourth. He was a 4th overall pick out of Ohio State, already leading the league, over 1,100 yards. He already is on pace to break Eric Dickerson's rookie record.
Which is really saying something, considering that Eric Dickerson has had that rookie record for over 30 years.
And on top of all that, he really transforms the offense.
Yeah.
He takes a lot of the pressure off the other receivers, and it puts and that's what's good about that is the defensive lines will focus a lot on him, box things up, and then when Prescott sees that, he can make some plays over to Bryant and to Witten and Cole Beasley, who's sort of your Julian Edelman on the team.
Yep. A mutual friend of ours, David Marcus, who's a longtime volunteer producer here at CTV, he came up to me and asked me, can the Cowboys make it to the playoffs? And
they will.
Yeah, it's not even a matter of if anymore. It's a matter of how far can they go. And the way they're playing right now, they can go as far as they want to. And right now, can they win the Super Bowl? Obviously. Will they win the Super Bowl? If they keep playing the way they have been right now, I would be really, really concerned if I'm the AFC representative in the Super Bowl and I have to see the Cowboys playing the big game in Houston. And that's another thing. This year's Super Bowl is going to be in Houston, correct?
That's right. At Energy Stadium, where the Texans, of course, play. This time around, though, and you know who's going to be the halftime act? Lady Gaga.
Yeah, Lady Gaga is going to be the halftime entertainment. Think what would happen if the Cowboys did make it to the Super Bowl this year. Energy Stadium in Houston would probably be 80 to 90% full of Cowboy fans. And the stadium would be so loud that you would think that it was a Cowboys home game.
It does, whether it's New England who they play against or Oakland who possibly can make it there, or even the Chiefs could even make a surprise run to the Super Bowl. One of those three teams is going to make it on the AFC side. I
tell you what, a Cowboys versus Patriots matchup would be really intriguing. The four-time Super Bowl champion against the hot shot rookie who's trying to make his mark in the big game. If I'm not mistaken, if this were to happen, I think Dak Prescott would be the very first rookie quarterback to ever start an NFL game.
In the Super Well, actually, years ago.
In the Super Bowl.
Remember Colin Kaepernick?
Kaepernick was actually in his second season.
That's right. But he would, it was remarkable the run he made. But he had less starts. That's the thing. He had less starts than Dak Prescott has had, and he took his team. And that was all due to Alex Smith's injury, too.
Yep.
By the way, Alex Smith, though, is finding a real nice home in the last few years in Kansas City with Andy Reid as his coach.
Just last night, they played this intoxicating Sunday night game against the Broncos, a game that went overtime and went to the very last second of overtime. But was also marked by a little second guessing because the Broncos were facing fourth down just inside Chiefs territory, and instead of punting, they decided to attempt a 62-yard field goal.
Let's see.
Which came up way inaccurate.
Yeah, it went wide to the right, in fact. It was a bad idea. And here's the thing. It was a 62-yarder. It would have been an NFL record had Brand McManus done it. And here's the crazy thing. McManus usually can make from 70 yards out. You're talking about very thin air in Denver, Colorado here.
Yep.
As opposed to any other place in the country, that wouldn't be the case. So McManus could have made this in a sleep, but because it was a pressurized situation, it was at night. The wind factor, too, you have to account as well. There was no way in that type of situation he was going to make the 62-yarder, and it proved to be a big mistake on Kubiak's part.
Yep.
But they were afraid. This game could have possibly been the third tied game of the season, which hasn't been done since 1978. That was the year when they decided to add overtime.
Yeah. I think it's about
74.
You know what? I think it's about a high time that maybe they change the overtime rules because we've already had 2 tie games this year. Maybe it's gotten to a point where they should adapt the college rule and eliminate ties altogether and have these teams start at midfield as opposed to the college game where they start at the 25. Have them start at midfield and then just keep on playing until somebody gets a game-winning score.
But the great part about the game, besides Carlos Santos' game-winning field goal that clanked off the left upright and just went right through, was Tyreek Hill's 3 touchdowns on 3 different plays. A receiving touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and a return touchdown. Has been done since Gale Sayers in 1965.
Yeah, and Gale Sayers is now in the Hall of Fame.
Like that was one of the special moments. This game was so compelling from beginning to end.
Yep.
And the lead changes that both these teams had. And it's really, it's a testament to this rivalry. And no wonder why the NFL flexed this game out of the 4 o'clock slot into the 8:30 slot, as opposed to the Jets, who were originally scheduled for the 8:30 slot last night.
It's a good thing that they did that because this game was so much more enjoyable to watch. Now, as far as your potential Super Bowl matchup, I mentioned Cowboys versus Patriots. What about a possible Cowboys versus Raiders Super Bowl meeting? The 2 young teams that are going 2 teams that are going in the right direction right now. The Cowboys with their rookie quarterback running back combo, and the Raiders who have Derek Carr, a guy who's suddenly done a complete about-face as a player. He's become more clutch. He's become more assertive. He's become a lot more confident taking the snaps from under center. And just yesterday, he wound up dislocating his finger when he tried to take a snap from under center. Fortunately, he came back into the game, but the Raiders have to be a little worried about where Derek Carr's health is right now.
Well, you know what? Yesterday, thank God he was able to tape that. It was an injured pinky. And but eventually he came back in the second half. He was able to lead another comeback, including getting the game winner to Crabtree on a 49-yard pass on 3rd and 9 from the 14.
And this was a game where
Janikowski's game-winning 23-yard field goal with about a minute 45 left that gave him that 35-32 lead.
And this was a game where the Raiders actually had a double-digit lead, and then all of a sudden, Cam Newton just started going crazy. He threw for a couple of touchdowns, and the next thing we know, the Panthers had a one-touchdown lead, and then it's the Raiders who rally from behind to take the lead. And the Raider defense, which has been, I don't want to say overlooked, but I think might be very, very underrated, comes up with a big play on 4th down, getting a strip sack against Newton and sealing the game.
And how about that 75-yard drive? That game-tying drive that he led to Clive Walford. That was the 12th time that he had the tying or go-ahead touchdown pass in the 4th quarter. That's an NFL record for Derek Carr right there. He's surpassing his brother and then some.
Yep. And going back to Thanksgiving night, the third Thanksgiving Day game was Steelers and Colts. You think the Colts really miss Andrew Luck as their quarterback? It's a good thing that he's possibly going to be making his way back for the Jet game next Monday night, because if not, we could be seeing basically a repeat of 2011 all over again, the year that Peyton Manning was hurt and they had to go with a plethora of other quarterbacks who just embarrassed themselves.
But you saw why Scott Tolzien doesn't get many starts, and it really showed in the nightcap between the Steelers and the Colts. And and then you had it looked like a depleted secondary with the Colts, too. They gave up 3 touchdowns to Antonio Brown right there.
Yeah.
3 big touchdowns, a 22-yard at the end that sealed it with 5:30 left. And then how about the 25 and 33-yard touchdown passes to Antonio Brown? Whoever had him in fantasy made, I would say, 30, 40 points in fantasy that night for sure. Yeah. Without a doubt. And if you had Roethlisberger, you definitely made some points, too.
Yeah.
Le'Veon Bell even had a nice 5-yard rushing touchdown on the day. The only touchdown that the Colts even had on the night, and this is the fact they actually had 2 chances to cut the deficit. Tolzien gets stopped twice on 3rd down runs at the 1-yard line. And then how about incompletions on those 4th down plays? That's just what killed me right there. And the 2 interceptions that he had. He really, it shows you why he only has 3 career NFL starts, and he wasn't a major starter on most teams. This guy's not even a backup. He's a 3rd stringer at best.
Well, on the bright side, let's go to our neck of the woods right now, specifically how the Giants did yesterday in playing the Browns. As happy as I am to see the Giants win yesterday's game, as you could probably tell from all of my gear.
Oh, yeah.
There were times when this game looked really, really sloppy. Eli Manning was uncharacteristically inaccurate. 2 or 3 times he overthrew Odell Beckham Jr. when Beckham beat his man by 2 or 3 steps. And then what happens? Finally, the Giants capitalize on a really big turnover, turn it into a touchdown, and then things got to be a little bit too close for comfort for them. That's been the Giants' problem. The last 2 weeks against the Bears and the Browns, 2 teams that, quite frankly, they're 50 times better than, they have let these teams make it close when they should not have done that.
Well, the good thing was they had 2 opportunities, the Browns in the first half, to score touchdowns. But fortunately, the Giants' defense were able to do such a good job and just leave it and kept it at just field goals from Cody Parkey. And then, of course, towards the end when it was I think it was 2013 in the game.
Then Jason Pierre-Paul made that big play where he wound up
a fumble recovery for a touchdown.
Recovering a fumble that got popped in the air on a sack, and he returns it 44 yards for a score. And that was pretty much the exclamation point right there. But again, the Giants cannot let teams hang around for as long as they did the last couple of games. But as good as this win was, the Giants are now 8-3 this season. They've got 2 more wins at this point than they did all of last year. So the real meat of the schedule is coming up. They still have their division games. They've got the Cowboys, they've got the Redskins, the last game of the season, and they have the Eagles. Then there's a non-conference game with the Steelers, and they also have the Lions coming up, all of whom are potential playoff teams. This is where the Giants really need to start making their money if they are serious about being a playoff team.
This Sunday, 4 o'clock, actually 4:25, in Steel City against Pittsburgh. This is a Steelers team offensively. The Giants defense, they're going to have a heck of a plan to contain the likes of Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. That's for sure, because they're tough customers to go up against. So that's where the defensive line is going to have to really. They're going to probably box up the line, 6 people, 7 people at the line of scrimmage. But then you got to worry about those one-on-one coverage plays with Antonio Brown, whoever's going to cover him on the secondary. Then they're the people the X factors on that offense, besides those 2 big names. Eli Rogers.
Yeah.
Look out for him, or look out for some of the other wide receivers, the unknowns for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That could really have a big day. So the Giants defense is going to have to really do a good job. And if you have a chance to contain Big Ben, you better come with 2 people, because one-on-one, he's not your average quarterback where, you can easily take him down. He's a big, beefy guy.
Yeah.
Unlike any other quarterback I've ever seen in my life. So as for the Giants offense, if I'm the O-line, you better look out for Steven Tuitt and Lawrence Timmons.
Yeah.
Those guys are monsters on that D-line. And, of course, the ageless monster, Harrison. He is the ageless monster.
Yeah. This is the Giants' first real test to see exactly where they stand in the NFC playoff race, because right now it's the Cowboys, to a lesser extent the Seahawks, and then the Falcons, who've been playing some of their best football lately. Yesterday they got a blowout win against the Cardinals, and then after that the Detroit Lions and possibly
Yep, I had the playoff picture.
Yeah. Right now, it's the Cowboys, Seahawks, Lions, and Falcons that are your division leaders. The Giants and Redskins would be the 2 wild cards right now.
And in that playoff picture right now, the Cowboys are looking solid at the moment. They got a Thursday night match against Minnesota, so that's going to be something to look out for. Minnesota, of course, coming off a terrible Thanksgiving Day loss, which they could have won that game just as easily, but they gave it up at the end, especially that Darius Slay interception off of Sam Bradford. They started 5-0, the Vikings. They've gone 1-5 since.
And whose responsibility for that 1-5 slump fallen on?
It's been Sam Bradford making some bad plays. It's also the defense not doing what they did in the very beginning, because they were lights out. This was a defense that gave up no more than maybe 12, 14 points a game. So they got to return to what was successful in the early going. Get the running game established. Yes, I know that's hard without Adrian Peterson. That's going to be the tough task for them coming up Thursday night against the Cowboys. And you know what? No situation, no game is ever too big for Dak Prescott. He is unlike any rookie I've ever seen. Big play Dak, I like to call him.
Yeah.
Because he really knows how to make the big plays no matter what the situation is. He reminds me of Russell Wilson in his first season coming in the NFL.
Yep.
That self-assuredness, that ability to not let any big moment get to him. And the fact that he's able to run with his legs, he's able to make good option plays when he needs to. He's got a monster running back and partner in crime in Ezekiel Elliott, and an O-line that can part the Red Sea like nobody else, and an array of good receivers. The Seahawks, on the other hand, this year, the defense yesterday, they lost 14-5 in Tampa Bay. Unfortunately, that O-line allowed 6 sacks on Russell Wilson. It was a terrible day to be a Seahawk fan and watch that game.
But it was a really great day to be a Buccaneer fan. And let me tell you, Jameis Winston has done a lot of maturing as an NFL player. He's become more assertive offensively. He is cutting down on the mistakes that he's been making from his rookie year. Can they be a playoff team? Possibly. Will they be a playoff team? It only remains to be seen. They're within striking distance. I mean, it's not completely impossible.
Not at all. They're 6-5. They're on the cusp. They're in the hunt right now. They're behind the 6-4-1 Redskins right now. And if you look at the schedule coming up this week, where for the Buccaneers, actually, they are playing the Chargers in a late afternoon game.
Yeah.
That is doable for them to win that matchup.
Yeah.
And
San Diego's dangerous, though, because Phillip Rivers has been playing some really good football.
And they played a good game yesterday in Houston, winning 21-13, and also forcing 2 bad interceptions off of Brock Osweiler, the $74 million, some people are thinking, mistake that they brought. In fact, I was watching, on Fox, and when Rob Riggle does his picks and all that, they did, one of those vignettes about doing a game show. It's like, what's Osweiler? No, what costs more, actually? On Price is Right, when they have 2 items, what costs more and what costs less? They said, popcorn machine costs, what costs less? Osweiler's contract or a popcorn machine? Somebody said, Osweiler's contract. Mm-hmm. They revealed the popcorn machine $5, and they're like, Osweiler's contract? $74 million. And one of the actors like, really? And then Rob was like, yeah, I know, believe me.
Absolutely amazing.
It is funny. They paid this guy, and yet he has 13 interceptions to 12 touchdowns on the year. I tell you, no host team has ever made it to the Super Bowl, and that will not be an exception with the Texans this year. As for the other, the AFC playoff picture,
well,
you look at the Patriots at number 1 right now, who beat the Jets yesterday.
Right now, the Patriots and the Raiders are the 2 best teams in that conference. After that, you have a complete hodgepodge of possible playoff contenders or pretenders, if you ask me. Right now, the division leaders are the Patriots and Raiders, followed by the Ravens and the Texans. Baltimore is playing much better football this year than last year. And I told you, watch out for the Ravens, because now that Joe Flacco is back, all bets are off for the opponents. Then after that, you've got the wild cards. At this rate, you have the Chiefs and a really surprising Dolphin team that's gotten great play from Jay Ajayi, has gotten really good play defensively. I don't want to give too much credit where credit is due, but at least Ryan Tannehill is playing a little bit better.
But there was a bit of a scare yesterday, especially at the end against San Francisco, where if it wasn't for Ndamukong Suh's massive defensive play at the very end, stopping Kaepernick from tying the game up, they could have possibly lost in Hard Rock Stadium. The other game that really I think about, when Cleveland came to Miami, if it wasn't for that really bad, if it wasn't for the defense causing a turnover, or actually Cody Parkey unable to get the game-winning touchdown, that could have been Cleveland's first victory right there. So there were some games where Miami, you held your breath for them. They do that. They've done that sometimes too. But you know what? At the end, Jay Ajayi had 2 big 200-yard games during the season. The defense is improving somewhat, but the offense is really where everything has clicked.
Yep.
And I said on my other show first week when we did the season, Miami's going to be a wild card slot team. I'm almost right there.
Well, let's see them keep this up in the last 5 weeks of the season, because the schedule for them, it's not completely terrible. I mean, they have their division opponents plus a couple of other games, but let's see how Ryan Tannehill does in real crisis. Now, we have to talk about Patriots and Jets. Tom Brady once again showed why he is still the best quarterback in this game.
A real hombre.
Down by a point with about 3 minutes left in the game. What does he do? He drives the Patriots all the way down the field, 65 to 70 yards, and throws the game-winning score.
How about the James White play on fourth down? How about the 25-yard catch by Chris Hogan where he was empty? They played this stupid prevent defense where they pulled their corners and their secondary back, and that's the thing you can't do against this team, because they are about short routes and plays, and then they stretch it after the catch. They did not do that whatsoever. They let this game go away. They deserve to lose.
Yeah. And once again, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was not terrible, threw for about almost 270 yards. The numbers were okay. He was not terrible. But once again, with a chance to drive down the field for the game-winning score, what does he do? he commits another fourth quarter turnover,
Fumble.
losing a fumble on a strip sack.
By Chris Long.
If this doesn't show you that Ryan Fitzpatrick needs to be replaced by Bryce Petty, and I was a little hard on Bryce Petty when he made his start against the Rams.
I was there for that game. And I'll tell you, he had an opportunity to win that game. The potential. Remember the Anderson play on the right side of the field? He overthrows him. They could have won that game easily. It was 9-6. I was bored out of my mind at times. But the only good thing was the fact that Lloyd Thompson, who by the way is a good friend of mine, who got me the ticket to go to the game, and we had a good time watching it. Thank God for his company and the Yingling beer and all the food, because honestly, that game was just terrible to watch.
If this doesn't show you that Ryan Fitzpatrick needs to be a goner from that roster, I don't know what will. But he is not the only problem. How can you possibly win a game with just 69 yards rushing? Matt Forte had a grand total of 27 yards on the ground. This guy is being grossly underutilized. That's number one. Number two, will someone please tell whoever is running their scouting department to get a tight end? You know how many passes the Jets tight ends have caught going into yesterday's game? 4.
Yeah.
4 catches by the Jets tight end rotation, which consists of maybe 2 or 3 guys. And the Patriots are right up there with the Seattle Seahawks as among the leaders in catches made by their tight end rotation. Yet the Jets, all they can muster is 4 catches from their tight end rotation.
You know how many touchdowns they have from their tight end position?
None.
A big freaking goose egg, folks.
And I think it's about time that we say goodbye to Darrelle Revis. He was an elite player in that game. But ever since he got himself hurt and he came back to the Jets that second time, he has not been the same player. It is time for him to maybe either call it a career or try and get a fresh start somewhere else, because he was toasted on both of the Patriots' last 2 touchdown drives.
And how about the catches that were thrown towards C.J. Spiller? Right on the mark from Fitzpatrick. There were moments that Fitz actually was good in this game, where he threw to C.J. and he couldn't catch. Or the one-handed attempt by Marshall that made no sense to do. Or Anderson right there. There were several times these players dropped the ball, literally, on Fitzpatrick. That could have turned the game otherwise.
And just so you know, both of the Jets' turnovers from yesterday wound up leading to scores.
With the exception at the end, that was that.
And it's only going to get uglier from here.
Oh, please.
Because the Jets have another game with the Patriots and the Bills and the Dolphins, in addition to playing the 49ers and also playing
the Colts a week from
the
today.
Indianapolis Colts next Monday night.
I'm going there, actually.
A game in which Andrew Luck is rumored to be returning to action from concussion protocol.
God, I know. Believe me.
This has 3-13 written all over it.
Honestly, at this point, it doesn't pay for them to win any more games. It pays for them to lose and get a top 5 draft pick.
Even then, it's not going to be a guarantee that they're going to get a great player.
Who knows? Or they can make trades with other teams and get players that they need, or get future draft picks. That's what the good thing about being a top 5 team. You can make deals in that area, especially the Cleveland Browns. At this rate, you know what your friend said last week? They're going to be 0-16. I'm almost inclined to agree, but I'm thinking maybe they won't join the 08 Lions and they'll get that elusive win. I'm still thinking in the San Diego game in 2 weeks. But as for the Jets, they're right now in the line for a number 5 or 6 pick.
Well, a number 5 pick is okay.
Deshaun Watson.
I just don't know. I mean, they already have 4 guys on their roster as it is, 2 of which are going to be free agents. The other 2, they have not shown any faith in whatsoever.
And
I have no clue Who is calling the shots on that roster? Is it Mike McCagnon or is it Woody Johnson? It boggles the mind how much incompetence and how tiny of a football IQ that organization has had. I mean, think about it. They passed on Emmitt Smith for Blair Thomas, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but that was a different administration.
Well, what about the administration right now?
This administration right now, they paid $12 million for 3 years for Matt Forte when they heard that the Patriots were going to take Forte to Foxborough to have a meeting with him. That's when they hit the red button, the panic button, and they made that deal. And yet they underutilized him, like you mentioned. The fact that this organization drafted a wide receiver in the number 2 round, who they haven't used, very seldom used, in Devin Smith. And then Darren Lee, where the hell is Darren Lee? I don't know who he is this year. Next year, if they get this number 5 pick, they really need to get Deshaun Watson. I'll tell you why. This guy is exciting. He's the type of quarterback we need, a dual threat guy who's younger, faster, and will be ready for the pros. And has done a great job in Death Valley this year. And his team is just a victory away this Saturday against Virginia Tech in the ACC title game. Watch that game, folks, Jet fans, because that could be your future quarterback come next April.
And I'm not too sure about Deshaun Watson, to be honest with you. Right now, the Jets need so much.
Cornerback. Jalen Tabor from my beloved Gators could be good for them.
It's going to take more than just a cornerback. They need some youth at linebacker. They need a tight end in the worst way. They need a franchise tight end. They need someone along the lines of a Tony Gonzalez or an Antonio Gates or a Jason Witten or a Jeremy Stevens.
How about this? The funniest name in all of college football. Michigan. Jake Butt.
Oh, boy.
How about that for a tight end?
Last thing the Jets need is someone whose name reminds Jet fans of a very infamous play in Jet history, which is the butt fumble.
I know that was Trey inappropriate, but come on, you have to see some of the humor in that. But anyway, no, they really do need
quarterback, a real running back. I mean, I'm seeing Matt Forte's numbers. They're not terrible, but
he's underutilized.
Give him the ball. He was brought in on a 3-year contract for a reason.
And what about Bilal Powell, too? Talk about underutilized at times.
Bilal Powell is a good player who also has gotten pretty much overlooked. And here's another thing. All this talk about the Jet defense being the anchor of that team, I have not seen one single impact play made by that Jet defense this year, except for maybe in the Cincinnati game, which they still lost. And where have the down linemen been? Where is Muhammad Wilkerson?
How about the fact that him and Bowles have this contentious relationship in the locker room? Remember weeks ago when he sat both Wilkerson and Richardson in the first half?
Yeah.
You could tell Bowles is losing the respect of the locker room right there. Even though he's a lot tougher, of a disciplinarian than Rex Ryan was.
And let me tell you, this decision that he made about going with Ryan Fitzpatrick because he gives the Jets the best chance to win and because he's trying to appease the veterans in the locker room. What veterans in the locker room is he trying to appease to?
Marshall.
Could it be not Brandon Marshall?
Yeah,
Brandon Marshall hasn't been there long enough to try and even make some noise. That's number one.
He is a veteran, maybe not in the Jets locker room, but he is a veteran in the sense of the word veteran. He's been in the league over 10 years. He's been with 4 teams already. So in that regard, he is a veteran. So he wants to respect probably him and some of the other players. But at the very end of the day, he needs to just think about the team itself. Who really gives him the best chance to win? They need to go with somebody who can win for the rest of the year. But honestly, there's no point for them to win. Just lose every single game. Go 3-13. Get that number 5. Draft Deshaun Watson. Trust me, draft him. If you don't, you're stupid.
To be quite honest with you, I'm not really sure that Deshaun Watson is such a sure thing, not just as a pick, but as a quarterback. I mean, granted, he's played some great football at Clemson, but how is that going to translate to the big-time game? Not only that, but you look at some of the quarterbacks that have come out of the ACC in the past. What ACC quarterback has really, really made a name for themselves in the last 10 years or so? The only guy that I can think of is Phillip Rivers, who went to North Carolina State. Other than that,
Actually, Russell Wilson went to North Carolina State.
He went to North Carolina State for 3 years.
Yep.
Then he went to Wisconsin for graduate school. Other than that, who else is there? Right now, as far as quarterbacks are concerned, you would have to be really, really fortunate and catch lightning in a bottle in order to get that real blue-chip quarterback prospect that's going to try and take a team to the next level. Not to say that they should get somebody like a Dak Prescott. Shoot, I'll be lucky if the Jets can take somebody like a Phillip Rivers, maybe 15 years younger. But at this rate, Deshaun Watson, he's a big question mark in my eyes. I just don't know.
And there are even rumors of Tony Romo to the Jets thing, and there are rumors with so many teams in the Tony Romo sweepstakes.
Yep.
You know, you have the Cleveland Browns are in the running, apparently.
Oh, brother. Let me tell you something.
Denver.
For Deshaun Watson to be drafted first overall would be probably the biggest mismanagement of an overrating of a draft prospect that any franchise could ever make. I mean, this would smack of the Los Angeles Clippers drafting Michael Olowokandi.
Well, no, I was mentioning in terms of Tony Romo because Tony Romo has been mentioned, rumors of going to some other teams and all that.
I heard a Tony Romo to the Denver Broncos rumor. Not sure if it's all the way true because right now the Broncos are doing reasonably well with Trevor Siemian.
I'm going to say this, folks. Tony Romo is going to be a Chicago Bear. Reason why? A team like they need a quarterback in the worst way.
The Bears have been needing a quarterback since Jim McMahon got traded.
Not only that, him and John Fox actually would get along very well together. And you got a young receiver now, Sean Jeffrey, and you do have potential in those running backs.
Yeah.
In Jeremy Langford, Kadeem Carey, and Jordan Howard. They have the players there in place. They just need an actual quarterback who can throw to them. And honestly, Tony would fit that team.
Yeah.
I don't care what other people say about Denver or Cleveland because honestly, that's punishing him if he goes to Cleveland.
Yeah.
And if you really don't give a crap about him, send him to the Jets. That really will show him. But if you do care about Tony Romo, you care about his career and the fact that he played in the next state, Eastern Michigan right there.
Actually, he played at Eastern Illinois.
He played in the state of Illinois. That's right.
And also, he grew up in the Midwest. He grew up in Wisconsin.
It would make the most sense for him to go to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, but you would have to consider another thing, though.
Contract.
There's the issue of his contract and his medical history and his age. Tony Romo is a 36-year-old quarterback who has had a major back surgery, a major neck surgery, has also had a foot problem. Somewhere down the line, he's going to have to think about a second career because I'm not really sure if he can last in the league much longer at his age and with his fragile body.
Speaking of the Chicago Bears, they almost came back against the Tennessee Titans yesterday. They lost 27-21, but Matt Barkley almost led a game winning drive. Unfortunately, he threw an interception at the very end. They lost 27-21. And then you look at the Jaguars right there. They nearly tried to come back in this game, but Tyrod Taylor, has done a good job with this Buffalo Bills team. They won 28-21 at home. They could have easily lost that game against.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there were some major injuries. Allen Hurns got injured on a hamstring issue.
Yeah.
And Chris Ivory, after the first quarter when he got that touchdown, he got injured too. So this Jaguars team, Shad Khan, if I'm him, fire Gus Bradley after the season. If you don't, you don't really honestly care for this
He's
team.
already rumored to be on the chopping block right now.
As for the Bengals, of course, they lost yet again, so there's no way they're going to make the playoffs for a sixth straight year. They lost to the Ravens 19-14, who now have the AFC North lead due to the tiebreaker over Pittsburgh.
And this is also prompting rumors about Marvin Lewis's job security, which has been rumored for at least 5 years now.
He's been there, 12 years as it is?
He's had 14 years coaching the Cincinnati Bengals.
That's unbelievable, considering him and Belichick probably are the longest active coaches with one team right now in the NFL.
That's right.
So the fact that Marvin Lewis hadn't been fired after the last 5 appearances in the wild card round where they've lost.
Yeah.
Talk about showing mercy and all that.
Yeah. But I'm telling you, if the Bengals don't make the playoffs, I think this is finally the time that we see Marvin Lewis out of a job.
No mercy.
Especially considering he has never won a playoff game as Bengals head coach.
And speaking of the Buckeye State, Tyler Gabriel, former member of the Cleveland Browns team that got cut this past year, guess what he did for the Falcons? 2 short touchdown passes and helping the Falcons to a 38-19 victory over the Cardinals.
Well, that's because he's working with a real quarterback, Matt Ryan.
And the Cardinals team that was the odds-on favorite. Remember, they were the odds-on favorite to win the NFC after going to the title game last year?
Well, now they're 2 games under 500, and their playoff hopes are in serious jeopardy.
The Rams, of course, with Jared Goff, first road start, had some promising touchdowns, but at the end of the day, you went into a buzzsaw. Drew Brees, 4 touchdowns, 5 total with a rushing score. Mm-hmm. They won 49-21 in the Big Easy.
Who says that Drew Brees is washed up? He's had 16 years. He's still throwing the ball as if he were been in the league only 4 or 5 years. He's looked dynamite, and yet they want to run him out of town? Yeah. Completely unfair.
And there's some pretty good games coming up this week, including the Thursday night game. Tonight, actually, you got Packers-Eagles.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, they're going to be kicking off within the next 45 minutes. This is probably the single most important game of the season for both teams. A Packers team that has been a colossal disappointment this year. Under 500, if you can imagine that. This from a team that was supposed to be the odds-on favorite to win the NFC North. They're 2 games under 500 now. The Eagles, dead last in their division, a 500 team. Aaron Rodgers in a terrible slump. Carson Wentz hitting the rookie wall. Which team is going to want this game more?
Oh, the Eagles. I'm going with the Eagles tonight and expect, Ryan Matthews, unfortunately, is out for this game. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be Jordan Matthews, who's going to have a big night tonight. Watch out for him. I'm going with the Eagles, the Eagles, as they call them in North Philly, to win. Now, college football, you had the annual Iron Bowl. Of course, Alabama completed their perfect 12-0 season, 25 straight victories. Now, all they got to do is kick the crap out of my beloved Gators this Saturday in the SEC title game, and then go on to win the semifinals and the finals of the playoffs and basically have a perfect 15-0 season.
Well,
Yay.
Right now Florida is really battered and bruised because they had their heads handed to them by Florida State over the weekend in the Sunshine Classic. And this past weekend was the weekend of the traditional rivalries. In addition to those 2 games, you had probably the best game of them all, Michigan versus Ohio State, a game that had some controversy because a 4th down play that should have been a 1st down instead was called back because of replay. And this is a play that Jim Harbaugh is still angry about to this minute. Yet, even with this, the game went overtime. And what happens? Well, double overtime to be exact. And what happens? Ohio State gets the game-winning touchdown.
Curtis Samuel, 15-yard rushing touchdown.
They win the game, yet they're out of the Big Ten championship picture because Penn State took care of their business in blowing out Michigan State. So now it's Penn State and Wisconsin for the Big Ten championship. Plus, the other conference championships are all set. Washington basically not only took the Apple Cup from Washington State, but they also took their manhood, too, the way they just rattled them over in Pullman. So Washington's going to play Colorado for the Pac-12 championship.
How about
And the ACC title has Clemson taking on Virginia Tech.
And they took care of the Palmetto match against, they didn't just take care of them, they blew them out of the water, including a 21-0 hole in the first quarter.
And Virginia Tech had no problem beating Virginia in another edition of the Commonwealth Classic. How about the year that Virginia is having? First year of the post-Frank Beamer era, and what do? They win the Coastal Division title, and they've got Clemson for a chance at an ACC championship. This just goes to show you how great of a job Justin Fuente has done his rookie year as a head coach.
Without a doubt. And how about Wisconsin, of course, winning Paul Bunyan's axe for, was it the 13th straight year, and now they go on to the Big Ten title game via Nebraska's upsetting loss on Friday against Iowa, 40-10 in Lincoln. How embarrassing is that that C.J. Beathard and company took care of Tommy Armstrong in Nebraska. And then Penn State, of course, took care of Michigan State 45-12. What an upsetting season for D'Antonio and company.
This was a colossal disappointment for them.
D'Antonio is going to get fired probably at this year's.
I'm not so sure about that. He's done overall, he's done a really good job with that program, but after just one bad season, I don't see this happening right now.
I'm happy for Sifu Lafu and the Colorado Buffaloes, as you mentioned earlier, in Boulder winning.
To think, their head coach took over a team that had one victory going into his rookie year. Colorado didn't even win a conference game for 2 years. And look where they are now.
This game wasn't even sold out at the stadium.
Amazing. It just goes to show you how little faith the student body had in that program. What are they going to say now when Colorado plays Washington for the championship in Northern California this coming week?
Yeah, it's going to actually be on Friday on Fox. It's going to be
and a game that's going to be basically for the Big 12 championship. The rivalry that's known as Bedlam. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State in a game which I think is going to be held in Norman.
Yeah, it's going to be in Norman. You got two teams ranked in the top 25. You got Mason Rudolph versus Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield could possibly win the Heisman Trophy this year. I'm going with Bob Stoops and company. I'm going with the Sooners to win the championship. And
all of a sudden, the Heisman Trophy race has become wide open. We mentioned in-state rivalries. There was another edition of the Commonwealth Classic, Kentucky versus Louisville. Kentucky won that game on a field goal with 12 seconds left. But suddenly, Lamar Jackson's Heisman Trophy stock has gone way down. But consider this. Lamar Jackson is only a sophomore. He's got plenty of room to grow as a player. If he has a really good junior year next year, who's to say that he would not be a potential top 5 pick in 2018?
I'll tell you who's going to be in the running. Lamar Jackson will definitely be in the running for the Heisman. But look out again, a name that I mentioned earlier the Jets could think about, Deshaun Watson from Clemson. Also, here's another name, Dalvin Cook, who
from Florida State,
who was an incredible running back this year. Last year, remember, Derrick Henry from Alabama won the Heisman Trophy. This year could be another running back. And he just broke Warwick Dunn's all-time record at Florida State. Isn't that an ACC record for most rushing yards?
Yeah.
He really is an outstanding player. This guy he's going to be he's going to be in the NFL draft next year.
Yeah.
Mark my words. Dalvin Cook, and then Deshaun Kaiser and company in the most embarrassing Irish season ever concluded it with a beatdown from USC, 45-27 in their annual rivalry.
Yeah. In that game, they play for something called the Shillelagh. And once again, USC takes the Shillelagh away from Notre Dame. So,
they got the Shillelagh.
As far as conference championships, ACC is Clemson versus Vatech. Big Ten is Ohio State versus, Big Ten is Penn State versus Wisconsin. Big 12 does not have a championship game, but it's a regular season game that's going to be for the Big 12 title. Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State. Pac-12 is Washington versus Colorado, and Southeastern Conference is Florida versus Alabama. As far as the other conference championship games,
how about Kalamazoo, Michigan, folks?
Western Michigan, the only undefeated team in the country
besides
right
Alabama.
Now. The other undefeated team that's left in the country has Ohio University coming up for the Mid-American Conference Championship. That's going to be played in Detroit at the end of the week. There's also the American Athletic Conference title. Get this. Navy has a chance to win their very first league championship. And consider this. For many years, they had been an independent. Well, now they have a chance to win their very first league championship. And it's going to be them at home in Annapolis hosting Temple for the American title.
And 2 words, WW, Will Worth. 100
Yep.
yards rushing, 100 yards passing. That's the first time ever that a Navy quarterback has ever done that in one game.
And there's also the matter of the Mountain West title. It's going to be San Diego State and Wyoming this coming Saturday night.
Who would have thought Wyoming from Laramie, right? Mm-hmm. Team that, for years has been embarrassing to watch at times. They have a chance to win a major championship. Boise State had a chance to be in this title game, but they lost on Friday to Air Force 27-20 on a bad play at the very end of the game.
There's also Conference USA. Louisiana Tech is going to play Western Kentucky. And then there's the Sun Belt Conference, which does not have a conference championship game. But right now, Appalachian State has a chance to win the Sun Belt Conference title if they get some help. Their regular season just ended, but they need losses from both Troy and Arkansas State in order to claim their first championship at the highest level of college football.
I think this week, the game to really look for, is going to be Western Michigan Friday against Ohio. If Western Michigan wins this game, and I think they will, because Zach Terrell has done a great job, including their wide receiver Davis, who has over 5,000 yards, broke the FBS record. They win this game, they're going to get a major bowl bid come New Year's Day. Now,
2.5 minutes are left. We'd be remiss if we did not mention some of the other stuff that's going on. In the NBA, the Knicks recently split a home-and-home with the Charlotte Hornets. Tonight they've got the Oklahoma City Thunder. Right now, they're a 500 team, which makes them exactly what their record says they are. They're not good. They're not bad. Right now, they've just broken even. As for the Brooklyn Nets, so much for them being the pesky team that they were expected to be. They have gotten their bells rung the last 5 games now. They've lost the last 5 games by an average of almost 20 points a game.
This is what both teams at the Barclays Centers, with all their fans, do.
That's even assuming that they're drawing fans at the Barclays Center, first of all.
The Islanders and the Nets both are artists.
Yeah.
All the way.
Well, speaking of hockey, whereas the Islanders have been a major disappointment, the Rangers have had some problems of their own. They have a 4-game winless streak at home, including last night's loss to Ottawa. The Devils have been playing okay hockey so far. As far as baseball is concerned, the winter meetings are coming up. They're going to be taking place in Washington, and there have been some really hot rumors of the Yankees possibly bringing back Aroldis Chapman to be the closer. There's going to be a lot of intrigue with this winter meetings coming up.
Yoenis Cespedes.
Yep, there's also Yoenis Cespedes. There's also the Rule 5 draft that's going to be taking place. So there's going to be some really interesting stuff that's going to be happening right now.
I think Batista, too, is also up.
Yeah, Jose Bautista and also Juan Encarnacion are both prime free agents. So with that said, we're going to bid you adieu right now. So we just want to say thanks to Rob and also Kenny, who were on the other side of the glass. And, of course, thanks to you for joining us, Eric. So for everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Eric.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. Good night.
Peace.